Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Superman issue 26 by Joshua Williamson, Eddie Barrows, Sean Isaacs, Iber Ferreira and Alejandro Sanchez. Superman begins to see red as Mercy Graves remembers telling Superman about his growing anger, all thanks to Farm and Graft's synthetic red kryptonite coursing through his veins, fueling Superman's negative emotions. Graves reveals that Superman's invulnerability was keeping it all in check, but when Amanda Waller stole his powers during the Absolute Power event, it spread and buried deep into his body, so much so that when he got his powers back, even they couldn't fully hold it back. Superman soon proves this the case as in a Red K-induced rage, he smashes into Lex's cell at Stryker's Island, demanding to know what the villain has done. Williamson really hit the ground running this issue, giving a simplified version of Superman's current Red K poisoning, tying its progression to Absolute Power, where we saw it start to come through during Superman's travels with Zatanna, and now the end result, which is an enraged Superman attacking Lex. It's a hell of a hook for an issue, and it kinda works. Sometime before Superman's attack though, Lex meets with Lena, not wanting her to be in the dangerous prison. Lex is very clearly upset at himself and full of remorse for what he has done in the past and wants to mend his relationship with his daughter, but Lena is pretty obviously and rightfully pissed at him since Lex did sell her off to Brainiac when she was a child. I'm really surprised that Williamson is bridging this back to a story that is older actually than a lot of the people listening to this right now. It's an old story from the year 2000 called Superman Y2K. All of this adds some satisfying familial drama to the book, something which we don't get this type of drama with Superman family, but you have the Luthor family and you can have that type of drama. Lena knows that her father always makes this about him, and just when she thought things were getting better with him and they could actually have a life together, he went and ruined it. Lena leaves the prison more angry and resentful of her father than ever before, as at the Watchtower, the Atom Project oversees some scans of Lois, finding that her powers are indeed gone, but since they never were able to find out who actually owned them, they have no idea if they are gone completely or if they return to their original owner. This is interesting since the powers, while not outrightly stated, were heavily implied to belong to General Zod, who is currently heading to Earth's general direction again. Makes me wonder if he's gotten his powers back or if, like what the Atom says, they are fully gone, which would be a cool twist to do. Zod no longer has his powers either, so he ends up having to rely more on his tactical warrior genius mind in order to fight Superman, and it kind of also would make him more like that weird Pokolistani dictator Zod that they had in the early 2000s, which also kind of makes sense since Williamson is referencing a lot of stories from that era, case in point the stuff with Lena from earlier on. It all makes for some fun new theories running around my mind now that Lois doesn't have her powers anymore. Mr. Terrific wants to run some tests, but Lois isn't interested, wanting instead to just head back to the Daily Planet and to work. Clearly upset now she is no longer Superwoman. Lois, however, tells Clark that she is okay and just wants to get back to work, since while being Superwoman was fun while it lasted, she didn't need it to feel fulfilled in her life. So while Lois says all of this, it's pretty clear she isn't past it, and really I get it. She could, fly with her husband, help him out on his adventures, be right there with him in the danger without feeling like she's going to get hurt. And now she's just back to being a human who can get hurt and who can be broken. Anyone would feel just a little bit upset and maybe even a little resentful after that, even Lois Lane. I know a lot of people don't like it when they build tension between Lois and Clark and, put their marriage in jeopardy or, you just do some drama with them. But I really love it. It makes them feel like actual real characters who aren't infallible like a lot of people think they should be. Kind of goes like with that whole Spider-Man and Mary Jane thing, like that people think that they should be infallible as well, but I love when writers test their relationship and test their bonds, like Williamson is doing right here. Lois tells her husband to trust her when she says that she is okay, as across the galaxy, General Zod's prison barge is under attack by the Khund, who have breached the hull with some powerful new weapons. Weapons which Zod soon learns are stamped with the House of El symbol. Now this is an interesting development with the Supercorp weapons I didn't even consider, since now they are out in the galaxy, so yeah, people are going to start seeing Superman logos on guns that are killing innocents, blowing up ships and maybe even planets. So that's not a good thing for Superman or his family. And it's not good that Zod is the first to see this, and I bet this is the thing that's going to drive him towards Earth. These weapons are being used to destroy everything he has built, and he's going to blame Superman for that because he's made weapons. Unknowing to Zod that that's not the case at all. It's all will be just a big misunderstanding, but Zod won't see it that way. At Supercorp, Lena confronts Mercy, demanding to know how she isn't locked up with her father. Mercy feigns ignorance, saying an experiment got out of hand, and Lex admitted it was all his fault after working with Superman to deal with said experiment. Lena realizes her father is just covering for him. A pretty neat shift in the power dynamic between Lex and Mercy, since she used to be the one always covering for him. Now it's his turn. While I'm still bitter we never got a proper chance to develop the Lex-Mercy romantic relationship, I do enjoy Mercy being the one in control of their partnership here for a change. It feels like she is settling nicely into this role, and you can tell just the way Williamson writes her that she has this air of like, oh, finally it's happened. I'm in that control spot, I finally got there after all these years. Mercy offers Lena a job as her personal assistant, but Lena refuses to work with her after what she did to them. Superman arrives and agrees, refusing to ever trust Mercy or Supercorp ever again. Mercy getting her own window moment with Superman, much like how Lex had them, is great, and it's a great visual signpost of how she is basically the new Lex for now. She has inherited his position here, and it is great seeing her get into a verbal sparring match with Superman. The Man of Steel reveals that the Supercorp partnership is over, and her access to the Watchtower has been revoked, and all associated technology on it and through it have been disconnected. Mercy isn't so sure, since they have done very good things as Supercorp and doesn't want a simple fight between partners to ruin what they have going. I love how nonchalant she is about this. She knows Superman is not going to go for this, but she's still putting on that sort of businesswoman air, thinking she can try and make deals or something like that. It's a very Lex Luthor thing. She learnt from the best after all. Superman isn't budging, planning on shutting her down for good. Mercy is soon alerted to Lena stealing one of the superbikes, something she knows should not be possible. But Superman leaves her to deal with that mess as Lena rockets away from Metropolis and to Midvale, home of Supergirl. So this is quite an interesting development, since I've been staying in the dark of what's been happening in the upcoming issues of Supergirl. I've been kind of avoiding the solicitations for that book. And I love the idea of Lena joining the cast over there in Midvale. That'll be a fun dynamic, and one I think Kara could benefit from, since she's dealing with people with alien technology like the first issue implies she is, so she's going to need all the help she can get. Elsewhere, at the end of time, Doomsday is tortured by the Absolute Legion, taken right to the edge of death by Lightning Lad, but never killed, since that's what he wants, so then he can come back immune to the villain's powers. Staten Girl meanwhile ravages Doomsday's mind to find out about this world's Superman, finding that he is very different from the Absolute Superman, wanting to find out more about him and why Darkseid finds someone with so much compassion is such a big threat to him. Now, I didn't expect to get so much information from just a single page here, but we learned something big. Darkseid is actively looking for the Prime Superman and for a way to destroy him, since he seems to be the biggest threat to him and his plans for the Absolute Universe. It's a nice little nugget that positions Superman in a very important role in the upcoming crossover. Superman meanwhile confronts Lex, wanting to know if there is any more clones of himself with the hero's powers. Clark is still angered that Lex killed the clone, since after all it was still a living, sentient being despite it being a murderous psychopath. Lex tells him that he killed XL since he was a threat to Metropolis, and even Lois understood that, which is why she sacrificed herself and her powers, meaning she now no longer has those powers. Williamson puts in a real neat bit of continuity cleaning here, since as Lex is talking with Superman, Superman becomes worried since they are openly talking about his, secret identity, Lois being his wife, all that sort of stuff that people cannot know, otherwise they'll have a stroke and possibly die. And Lex covers this up by revealing that he's rigged the cameras and audio and video feeds to show that they're actually just talking about baseball and the Metropolis meteors and stuff like that. They're not actually revealing who Superman is. It's something that I don't think the book needed to do. I didn't even consider something like that. Yeah, it makes sense that he's in a prison, he would be, under constant surveillance. But it's one of those nitpicky things that I'm glad Williamson did mention, just because I know there'll probably be some people in the comments who would get mad at that sort of thing not showing up, and blaming the book being ruined because of that. So I'm kind of glad that he did put just that little thing in. It didn't need to happen, but I'm glad he did it. Superman tells Lex that he's staying in prison, but Lex knows that he needs him out of there since he can give Lois her powers back, since she must be feeling quite useless right now. This is exactly what I was saying before. Lex can even see that Lois has had this power and, was able to use it for good and, was kind of drawn in by it, and then it was just yanked away from her. So what does that do to a person, or maybe even a marriage and a relationship? Lex mentioning Lois and how she might be resenting Superman triggers the red K in his blood, but the hero knows that something is wrong this time as it feels different. Now I know Lex is trying to be a good guy, but this felt like classic Lex, like he was like probing Superman a little bit here and trying to set off that trigger, because he didn't need to mention his marriage and like his wife now resenting him, but that felt like classic Lex Luthor, digging the knife in and twisting it a little bit. And it does make me wonder if the real Lex is fully back and he's just, stringing Superman along here. The red K power soon explodes around Superman, destroying Lex's cell, as Superman is fully consumed by the red kryptonite, telling Lex to run. Now this was bound to happen sooner or later. The red K has taken over Superman, and I like that it's Lex who set him off, since how his anger works, Superman thinks that Lex did something to him and won't stop until that man is dead, and as I said before, this feels like Lex doing that on purpose. He wants to trigger Superman for some reason. Stryker's Island's security attacks Superman, but he rips through them like they are nothing as Lex escapes and goes to see Farm and Graft further into the prison, knowing they did this to Superman and now they'll help him cure the hero, and if they do, they can finally battle to the death. One thing that's been rearing its ugly head in the series over the last couple of issues is just how many plates Williamson is spinning in this book. Just so many plots like Graft and Farm come in, then they leave for like 10 or so issues at a time. So when they finally do make a comeback like they do here and become relevant to the story again, it's like, well, yeah, those guys exist and are part of this story, and we have a story being told with them, like what's going on with them. Some of the plots are beginning to be told as they are naturally coming to an end or being followed up in other books like, Lena and the Supergirl book, but there are a lot of spinning plates still going on in this book and it's getting a little overcrowded. Superman manages to snap himself out of his rage for a moment, long enough to call Mr. Terrific to help with the red K poisoning, but Michael doesn't answer the call. Instead, a hail of gunfire does from Marilyn Moonlight, as the gunslinger proclaims that she's going to protect Metropolis from Superman. Moonlight's return is a very welcome one. She was in the last issue and I lamented how she just kind of showed up and then immediately disappeared, so I'm glad that they're bringing her back right in the next issue. It looks like we're finally getting some movement on her plot. But again, it's one of those, spinning plates that kind of went underutilized, heavily underutilized. She hasn't appeared in a long time, so her coming back now is kind of like, you might as well just reintroduce the character as someone new. Williamson did set something up cool with her in the last issue where she is owed a favor by Lex Luthor, and I'm sure she's come to collect on that on top of protecting Metropolis from Superman, and I imagine she's going to have to end up protecting Lex, keeping him alive or something, and maybe Lex will be integral in making it so that she can actually exist when the sun rises or something, making it so that she isn't just bound by the moonlight like she usually is. Superman issue 26 began to fill out a lot of the several running plots Williamson has going, the chief one being Superman's red kryptonite infection and how the stress of Supercorp betraying him, his wife losing her powers, and Lex's betrayal is bringing the worst out in the hero. I love the shifting power dynamic between Mercy and Lex and how Mercy is taking control of it all, going toe-to-toe with Superman. It's very fun to see her go through so many different Lex cliches, like the window sequence with Superman talking to him through the window. It's really cool to see that sort of stuff play out with her. However, like much of this issue, it kind of suffers from too many plot strings coming and going and, appearing for a page and then not appearing, for a very long time. It feels like everything's getting a little bit messy. I'm going to give this issue a 7 out of 10.